Sometimes we can feel ourselves starting to get worn down and worn out. Start to feel a little achy. Maybe there's a little tickle in the throat. We can feel like maybe we're starting to get sick. And now usually we all have our different responses to that. Like we're pounding juice. We're already, in the drugstore with Hall's cough drops or something. We have our response to combat that sickness that we know is coming. What if that same self-awareness we use when we're starting to get sick, we can use when we're starting to get depressed? Yo, what's going on? It's your friendly neighborhood knucklehead. And in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I like to call pre-depression. And this is something that I kind of dubbed just based out of something that I've noticed within my own cycles of depression. And it's usually a state that I get in when I feel like I think a depression might be coming. And now the first thing that we need to accept, and most of us already know this, but depression is a cycle. We have to accept that being depressed is just a part of the life cycle, just like getting hungry or getting sick or being happy. There's daytime, there's nighttime, there's springtime, there's winter. There's a lot of balance in life, and depression can be one of those things that balances our emotions as human beings. Once we accept that we're always on a cycle of depression, that it might be coming or going at any time, that's the level of self-awareness that we're going to need to understand what part of the cycle we're currently in, and then to be able to identify what could bring us to different parts of that cycle. And that brings me to the pre-depression phase. And for some people, this could be a long time. For some people, it can happen in the matter of minutes or seconds or whatever. But there will be some part of the depression cycle that your body is telling you
it's coming.
And these are the things that we need to take note of, because a lot of the time it's coming from our own behaviors or things that are happening in our lives. So I'll share what happened recently for me. A couple weeks ago, I went to a concert in this neighborhood that I used to go to a lot with my ex-partner. That concert brought a lot of people to the neighborhood, and it was a Saturday night, so it was really hopping. The weather was great. And what really is a problem when you live in the city of Philadelphia sometimes is parking. So it felt like I spent an eternity just driving around this neighborhood looking for parking, which already doesn't put me in a great state of mind because it's really mundane. But it also was the fact that I was driving around this neighborhood that I had all of these memories. So I'm driving around looking for parking, memories are coming back, starting to feel my vibes go lower and lower a little bit. But I went to the concert and that was a lot of fun. But when the concert's over, that's when things again start to die down. And something that I noticed for me personally is if I allow myself to stay up late, that kind of messes with my sleep cycle and my rest and my brain. And even just one night of staying up late can cause me to start to feel run down. And coincidentally, right after that, I had myself some bad dreams. So I had some old memories, stayed up late, and I had some bad dreams. So those were three things that I was able to identify that were going to put me into a depression. For the rest of that week, I was kind of battling myself a little bit, but because I was able to identify what put me into that place, I was able to have that level of compassion with myself to know, like, oh, I just need to catch up on my rest. I just need to allow myself to deal with these memories and feel whatever my body wants me to feel from these visual triggers and stuff, and just allow myself to get through it. And I know that because I'm on this cycle, I know that at some point there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. And once I deal with these things properly, and once I give myself the self-care that I need, I can be right back to where I was before it all began. And so this is why self-awareness can bypass a depression completely, or at least help you minimize the effects of depression by knowing what the triggers are, by being able to identify the behaviors that we did to get ourselves in a pre-depression state. We're then able to identify what our body wants to feel about it. What are the things that we need to process? And then processing what it is we need to feel with the proper self-care routines, that can streamline you straight through this cycle of depression. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. This doesn't happen all the time. This is just something that has to develop as a habit. But the key first step is treating this with self-awareness, treating these things with conscious thought, rather than just deep diving into the emotional aspect of depression. This is much easier said than done, but I promise if you start to change what this cycle is and start to accept the fact that we can cause our own depression sometimes, we can actually be able to bypass it or minimize the effects of it completely. As we take note of more and more of these triggers, it starts to get easier. It starts to get much easier to be able to deal with ourselves and to be able to identify what these things are. When I was in that pre-depression state, I was able to ask myself, how did I get here? What did I do to get me feeling so down? Because before this, I was kind of fine. And so if you're in a depression right now, or you feel like you're in a pre-depression state, or you feel like it's coming, sometimes it can just happen from this time of year. April is a brutal month for me too, because I lost my grandfather in the beginning of April, and the weather of April, that can really bring you down too. Like I used to have a partner that once it was rainy or cloudy, they had to stay in bed, and they would just tell me like, look, I can't do anything today. I just feel this weight on my chest, and it's because of the weather, and so I'm gonna need your help. That self-awareness that they had and their ability to communicate that to me, it became just something that we did. And then it got to a point where I knew that cloudy, rainy days, I'm gonna have to chill with my partner today. Instead of it being a depression day, it just became a self-care day. It really is somewhat rewiring our brain and how we think about depression and how we think about our feelings, allowing these things to happen and being conscious of them rather than being scared for when the next time is going to happen and trying to force these emotions down so that we can try to not feel how bad they are. Self-awareness is always the first step to a proper response to this stuff. So if you're in a weird state of mind or you feel off, ask yourself, why? Ask yourself, was I doing something, or did something happen to put me here? And when you can do that, you can identify that the same ways you get yourselves into these states, you can get yourself through them. If you're at this point in the video, you might as well give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And also leave me a comment about what you think. What's your pre-depression cycle like, and how are you able to get yourself through it? Up here, I'm gonna put up a video about a morning routine, and that can be a powerful thing to help adjust your day when you're starting to feel run down. And then over here, I'm gonna put another video about something that I did to help save my own life, to get me out of a victim mindset and to really take back the control over my present and my future. So I'll see you in the next videos, and stay creative.